Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. sought out by Jaron Boots Ennis. He said he is ready to fight either one of them if that call is made. He's ready for a top guy. We're going to talk about that. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. Now, I cannot wait. Jaron Boots Ennis is getting ready to main event. I think this is his very first main event with Showtime. He's been on the network, but I believe this is his first main event. Actually, his last fight with Chris Van Herding might have been a main event, so don't quote me on that. But either way, this is probably his biggest fight against Sergey Lipinets, very durable fighter who's been in there with Mikey Garcia, who's been in there with Lamont Peterson, actually sent Lamont Peterson into retirement. Now, I told you, the 23-year-old Jaron Boots Ennis, he has a great record so far, 26-0, undefeated, 24 knockouts, and I'm looking forward to this next fight. His opponent, Lipinets, is 32, but he has a record of 16-1-1, 12 knockouts, so it's pretty strong. His last fight, if you watched it with Castillo Clayton, he threw a lot of punches. It was very durable, and, this should be a real good fight. Now, he was asked about the question a lot of people want to see, because you have to look at this kid from Philly, comes from a fight town. Philly is certainly a fight town that birthed a lot of great fighters, Bernard Hopkins, and this is what he had to say. Quote, "I feel like I'm ready for a top 5 or top 3 guy and then a world title at the end of the year." He was asked about fighting Crawford or Spence next. He says, quote, "If any of the top guys need a dance partner, they can just call." So he let that be known that Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, they on notice. It's the welterweight division. Ain't no love lost, but he's ready to scrap with whoever need be. My thoughts, I'm not mad at it, but I got to see how he looks versus Sergey Lipinets. I think in this digital age, even though, and this is coming from a person who's very high up on Jaron Boots Ennis, I think he's a future talent. I think he could very well be the future. But, seeing is believing, because some people said the same thing about Virgil Ortiz Jr., and he just fought a step up in Maurice Hooker, a guy who hadn't really fought at welterweight, and he got the stoppage, but it was certainly a tough fight for him. I thought that was it was a competitive fight. After the fight, Virgil Ortiz said he had Rona, and he wasn't in his best form, but that's neither here nor there. And usually when people have to tell you little things like that, they know that wasn't necessarily the most dazzling performance. So you got to at least see it. Seeing is believing. Virgil Ortiz Jr., he didn't do bad, but he didn't just go in there and eliminate Maurice Hooker, because he actually did good in rounds 1 and 2. And then Maurice Hooker started getting into fight or flight mode, and he was on a long layoff, and he was moving up in weight. So he started to get into a little bit of a rhythm. And by rounds 3, rounds 4, Maurice Hooker was tagging Virgil Ortiz with some good shots. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a prospect, you're a prospect. These guys haven't been champions for a reason at this point. So seeing is believing. So me personally, even though I rate Jaron Boots Ennis, and I've always rated him a bit higher than Virgil Ortiz, I still got to see how he does versus Sergey Lipinets before I started, really start clamoring for a Terence Crawford fight and an Errol Spence, because they are the supreme, rulers of the welterweight division as of right now. But in the future, this could definitely be something, which is why I'm making the video. And this was a question he was asked about, and he responded. So, I'm making the video about it. I definitely think in the future, if those guys are still around or still in the division, these could be a fight that we want to see. But I think in due time and due course, me personally, I like, call me old fashioned, but when it comes to boxing, I like traditional things, and I think it makes me personally, I would rather see, they're talking about Virgil Ortiz Jr. fighting Terence Crawford, and I understand he might be ranked to fight Terence Crawford, but that's a different level of fighter, very experienced guy and stuff like that. So me personally, if I had it my way, ego matchmaker, smash the like button, I would rather see Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Jaron Boots Ennis, you know, in a couple of fights. And then the winner of that fight maybe go on to fight for a title against one of the few champions, Ugas, Errol, Spence, and Terence Crawford. But more than likely, and this is just a bit of speculation on my part, I think Errol Spence, PBC, and Ugas will get it done to the point where there's only going to be one man standing with 3 belts. I think they're going to make Errol Spence and Dennis Ugas. So really it's going to be Errol Spence with the belt if he beats Ugas, or Ugas if he beats him, and Terence Crawford. That's just what my forecast is. So we'll have to see how everything plays out. It's boxing. We're still in the pandemic. So there's a lot to, you know, consider and try to unpack. But I am hyped about this fight this weekend. I will be doing the BWP. That's the Boxingego watch party. Make sure you come down because we get down, you know. Boxingego watch parties, they're always fun. We have a great time. We watch the fights. I can't show you for copyright reasons, so I'm not going to be showing the fight, but we definitely, I give the commentary and, you know, live reactions and stuff like that. So it should be a good time. And Jaron Boots Ennis, trust me, I'm, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I've called a lot of promising fighters well before they had blue, you know, like Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. I mean, I'm talking about when Terence Crawford had dreads, I was telling people about him when a lot of people weren't familiar, before the Bradis Prescott fight even, right? I was telling people to check for this kid. And, you know, years later, these guys still haven't let me down. And those were good forecasts or good picks. So I think I'm pretty good at this point. Jaron Boots Ennis, I rate him. I say this with the utmost respect because one of my favorite fighters of all times is Roy Jones Jr. So I don't use this often, and I don't use it lightly, and I take it very serious since Roy is my boy. But I see shades of Roy Jones Jr., like mannerisms and, you know, stuff with the athleticism and how he gets his shots off, the explosiveness in Jaron Boots Ennis. That, you know, shades of Roy Jones. And I say that with the utmost respect. I'm not saying he's done what Roy Jones has done. I'm not saying they have the same career, but I see little, you know, shades of him. I would really want to ask Jaron Boots Ennis if Roy was one of his favorite fighters growing up, because, you know, oftentimes fighters, you know, you pick up little things from the fighters you adore and the fighters you idolize and stuff like that. So that's a question that I'm going to ask Jaron Boots Ennis if I get that opportunity, to see who his favorite fighters were growing up. But a lot of fighters take from all the greats: Pernell Whitaker, Floyd Mayweather's, Pacquiao, Sugar Ray Leonard, etc. So we'll see. First, Jaron got to look good. He got to get past Sergey Lipinets. Definitely a tall order. Lipinets' game. He has a good trainer. I think he's with Goosen still, and we're going to see. Before I get out of here, make sure you guys click the link in the description. I always tell you, it takes money to make money. I'm very serious about my craft and what I do here. I've been doing it full-time successfully. Use my link to get TUBEBUDDY. TUBEBUDDY is a great browser extension if you have a YouTube channel. Regardless of the concept or the genre you're in, TUBEBUDDY can definitely help, and they have a lot of built-in tools to make your life easier. I use TUBEBUDDY to this day. Click on the link. I'm not just trying to sell y'all something. I use it daily for videos like this. Click on my link. It does help the channel because I referred you. But if you're serious about your craft, you should definitely look into it. Click that link. Let's go. Jaron Boots Ennis, he's up next. Philly, y'all got one. I'll see y'all for the Boxingego watch party. You dig? Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TUBEBUDDY. I've used TUBEBUDDY for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TUBEBUDDY is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TUBEBUDDY and level up your channel faster. We working.